Okay.
All right. So, first of all, my name is Michael Gwynn. I am originally from East Texas, and I undergrad at Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches in social work, and a master's in social work here in Arlington at UTA. Worked for Child Protective Services for a long time. Started writing poetry, doing spoken word and slams, and the rest is history. I started doing that very well, and here it is 20 years later. I'm doing a little bit of everything: events, a lot of conferences, acting, and just having fun with just anything that has to do with speaking and inspiring others. And so I'm connecting to people who also do that very well. And so that's me. So if you don't mind, I don't know who wants to go first. Tell a little bit about themselves. Tanisha, I know you're muted, but so Ms. Brittany, you want to go ahead and go first?
Okay, that's it for her. My name is Brittany Washington, born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas, in Poly area. I am currently wrapping up my undergrad at Tarleton State University. I was a pre-physical therapy major for pretty much all of my college career, but however, I just switched over to industrial organizational psychology with a minor in business management after encountering a very racist work environment. I used to work for the oil and gas field processing their expenses. And so it's kind of always been who I was, to defend people and to stand up for the right, because I've been placed in multiple predicaments throughout my life in which I had to stand for justice. And sometimes that's a very lonely walk, because you're dealing with people who are afraid to be vocal and stand up for what's right. And it's not because they don't believe what's going on with you isn't fair. However, they become stagnant in creating or trying to think that they're creating a safe environment to stay on board with companies and things like that. So I'm also a business owner. I have a bow tie and handkerchief line, Be Exquisite. I've been in business for 5 years in November.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I'm big on giving back to my community. I'm big on giving back to the youth because they need to see it. It's a lot of things on media that portray us in a different light. That's not our reality. And so when we get into reality, they have a hard time adjusting, because how can you adjust when everything that you see and everything that you're taught that you are, it's thing that is not going on in reality in real life.
Right. That's excellent. Okay, continue.
I mean, with that, I'm kind of shy, so but I'm not shy at the same time, but I'm a little shy. So if you ask me, I got an answer, but okay. I'll let you go ahead.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you so much, Brittany. Miss Tanisha?
Yes, hi.
Tanisha?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, how do I say, I don't want to mess your name up. How do I pronounce it?
It's Denisha.
Denisha, okay.
Yes. Okay, well, just a little bit about me. I am from Dallas, Texas, born and raised, currently residing in Cedar Hill. I am a graduate of the wonderful University of Texas at Arlington. I go Babs. I finished there with my degree in interdisciplinary studies, which now is showing up in my life, especially with everything that is transpiring today. So I left actually UTA and I went into finance, or I should say insurance. And so I worked with the insurance companies, transitioned from there working with nonprofits to now where I've hung up both of those to focus now on mental health advocacy, especially in the Black community. Right now I'm focusing on building and creating a safer space for especially Black women and moms to talk more about mental health and how they can use certain tools such as self-care, mental health, first aid to better themselves and also their family members.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, y'all, again, if we get nobody else, I am getting ready to get fed this knowledge. I mean, y'all have the experience, so great. All right, well, I had a couple of questions, y'all, and the first question really kind of, we'll start with mental health. And each one of you, I would just want to hear what you think, and we can just chat about it a little bit, and we'll go on to the next one, and then when we're done, we're done. If other people come on, too bad. They missed the fire. They missed it. We want to make sure that we respect your time. We really appreciate y'all. So my first question was, what do you think the impact of mental health is? What is the impact of mental health on the Black Lives Matters movement? How does that affect us? This whole Black Lives Matters movement. How does that affect us mentally?
Well, I guess I go. One of the things that I'm noticing with the movement itself is things that have already transpired. We're already dealing with racial trauma. So with racial trauma, it is coming, it's not just something we see, it's been in our DNA. So it's something we've been living. So for people to like say, well, you need to calm down and hush, or you need to sit to the side, that right there, it builds up the anger, which builds up the frustration, which builds up more and more physical elements of like high blood pressure, heart attacks and things, because we're no longer focusing on our mental, because we're in the fight. And when we're in the fight, those things do go to the side of taking time to sit and practice breathing techniques, to actually taking time to check on ourselves and go to the doctors and making sure that, our levels are right, because we're in the fight. And I think that with this movement, it is much more geared and more impactful because of what happened with George Floyd and Breonna, but because we've been also trapped inside the house for 3 months. So now so all this cabin fever is coming out, and now we're going to have to see what that's going to take effect in August. So that is going to be that's why I'm definitely practicing on the work now, because come August, a lot of people are going to need more mental health advocacy therapy, because right now that's not their focus right now.
No, they in this fight mode right now.
Yeah, we're in fight mode. We're warriors. But even a good warrior is going to have to take care of themselves and get the wounds, taken care of.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. What do you think, Brittany?
Oh, I think that now is the time for Black mental health providers to be making themselves visible to our community. I think that a lot of people are enraged. And I think that the thing is, with our culture, we're not taught how to process and deal with our rage in a healthy manner. And because of that, that's why we have a result of so much gun violence within our young adults and teenagers these days. We see a rise in violence in senseless murders. And believe it or not, last week I got a call that my friend's sister, they were just out at a sports bar standing in line to get in, and someone opened fire. She ended up losing her life that night. And she was a toddler, probably about 1 or 2 years old. So we're dealing with that, and we don't know how to deal with that. I mean, when you study psychology, you start to learn what triggers are and things like that. But when you're dealing with people who aren't knowledgeable, it's our job to make them aware of how to deal with that. Whether that be you go outside to get some sunlight, to increase your levels of so that it will cut down on the chemical imbalances. Whether that you drawing, whether that be you listening to music. What is a healthy outlet? Say all day long. What we suffer from in dealing with the Black Lives Matter movement, but how are we coming up with a positive solution to move in a forward motion? And all of this goes into play in how we move forward as a culture from these traumatic incidents, because when you see senseless murders coming from police brutality and it's on camera, what are we what is being encoded in our mental. This is why we're becoming so desensitized to deaths amongst our own, because when you see it, what value do our lives have? Yeah, Black Lives Matter, but are you going to value and respect our lives? Beyond that, even with the movement, what are you doing with the movement to cut down on the Black on Black domestic violence in the household? How are you moving forward and teaching kids and getting out into the community to be proactive, so that when the police do pull us over, even though we don't want to have those tough conversations, sometimes parents are not able to, because maybe they're not in the household, or maybe they're just not aware themselves. So the Black Lives Matter movement within itself, it needs some growth. Right. And they need leaders like us to be able to point out those things. Hey, we're lacking in this area. Right. This is my thought process on this. Because just because somebody is a visionary one time, that don't mean you see the whole aspect of the whole shebang as it continues to evolve.
Right. I believe that, and I think we can all unmute if you want to. That way you can have an interchange if you want to. There's only 3 of us, unless we got background stuff going on. But all of what you said, resonates with me. Here's an opportunity for us to really, really make a difference. Now, how would it affect us mentally if we have now went through another Black Lives Matter situation where life has been lost? We've got statues coming down. We've got people around the world, galvanized, and there's solidarity. And then we don't put in place those things that you both mentioned. And then we lose that momentum. How does that affect us mentally? If after all this, 11 days straight of protests and all this stuff is going on, is that now part of our DNA, failure to capitalize on an opportunity to end racism as we know it?
I think that it does. I think that it plays a major part, and that's why we as leaders cannot allow our followers or the people who are connected to our followers to give up and fail. And to teach them, stay focused, even if that's posting on your social media every day. Hey, I know it seemed like it's dying down, but stay focused. We're still here to reach a goal. Pushing for registration deadlines when it comes down to voting. These are the things that we have to continuously as leaders, and also hold our other leaders accountable. When you see somebody, the pillar of the community in which they serve or stand, or people patronize their business, hold them accountable. Right. You look at every time a movement like this is going on, everybody loves to give reference to Martin Luther King and X. But how long ago were they slain? And how long have we let the baton sit on the ground before we picked it up? That's our fault as a people. But instead of repeating the same thing and not doing something different, that's insanity. So,
I agree.
So in order for us to do something different, we have to look at our own failures and learn from that, and teach people and empower people, and not belittle them whenever they do cross a mental health crisis and experience depression. And then the depression symptoms start to show up, and they may start to lose hope, because that's what you do lose when you are depressed. And so I think it's a community effort.
Okay, I agree.
I agree. And I go back to what Brittany said earlier. It starts back with going back to the community. I think even though we're quoting Martin Luther King and quoting Malcolm X and James Baldwin, I think what's coming up is everybody is social media happy, basically. I can post it on social media, but I'm not actually sitting here in front of somebody. And with the whole social distancing, it makes it hard to actually have that conversation when we're in a group or in a town hall where we're face to face and we're feeling the emotions and we're holding each other accountable. And it does come to that point where even though if I'm posting on my social media, somebody's going to cut it off. But at the end of the day, if I'm stepping at your door, knocking at your door and asking you, hey, how are you doing today? What did you do today? Come walk with me today. Or if I'm just being present with someone starts the whole process of the healing. I think we're in this process of we're fighting right now, but we haven't even healed past wounds. And we're too busy trying to follow the hashtags that we're ignoring the actual whole symptom. Even though we're talking about police brutality, we're not talking about like how seeing that affected us mentally and how we need to be, okay, well, we need every therapist on deck and we need to talk about this. We need to have a conversation fully and explore it. Even though we're doing Zoom meetings, I feel like a lot of this can be exhausting to some people, that they're not wanting to show up because it can be exhausting from work. But we have to be able to host this conversation and keep it going forward, even if we're not even on the social media platform. But if we're showing up in our schools and joining our PTAs, or we're joining our community boards, we're showing up at the rec centers and saying, hey, let's host the mental health awareness day. We have to do things that keeps this baton going on, because if we sit here on it, we're going to miss the mark. And right now, it's almost like I feel like we're catching up. We're playing catch up, and it's exhausting.
Well, we as a couple will always be in a position where we're playing catch up, given on the history. We're dealing with 400 years plus of being behind. So I think that what people are doing now is gaining that momentum and trying to keep it, but we can't afford to let it die. Like you said, whether that's us showing up at schools or community rec centers, whether that be you go and talk to church groups. Don't limit yourself to the places that you can go, or utilizing any platform that you get in to share that light. Because a lot of the times people are able to do what they know how to do, and who's to say that they were properly trained? It's a story. It's about two girls, and they always used to see their mom cut off a portion of the meatloaf when she was putting it into the oven. And when they got older, they grew older and they began to do the same thing. Seeing, just because my mom did it, I'm gonna do it too, and this is how it's gonna go, and this is how it's gonna be. Well, somebody asked them one day, well, why do y'all cut off a portion of the meatloaf? And they couldn't give an answer. So when they went back to their mom, they asked, hey, why do you always cut off a portion of the meatloaf? And it wasn't anything of substantial value of why she did it. She just did it so that the meatloaf could fit in the oven that they had at the time. So all that time they've been cutting off a piece, not even recognizing or realizing why she was doing it. They just did it out of habit. And I think that's a lot of what goes on in our culture. We do stuff out of habit because people aren't standing up, or if they are, because there are, and I will say, I'll stand corrected, there are people who advocate 365 days out of the year, 24/7, 24/7. But what is your environment doing? How can you challenge what you think you already know? And I think that's what we as leaders got to stand 10 toes down. Like, sometimes it don't become an argument, but you have to understand this is years worth of traumatic trauma and being conditioned to function in dysfunction, and calling it function. So we got years of undoing to do. So I think that we just got to be delicate with ourselves, but still stand firm with ourselves at this time.
Now, that was well stated, both ladies. Do you think that this time it's going to take us doing, even you two who have all these skills and have all this information, do you think it's going to take beyond what you already do? It's going to take more than you've ever done in your entire life in advocacy and mental health. Do you think that's what it's going to take from everybody? Because we just can't, like you just said, do the norm, do the thing we've been taught. We've got to go beyond that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, get a bigger oven of thought. You know what I'm saying? So do you think it's going to take that? Ladies, what do you think about that?
I do agree. It will take a I think it's more as before getting bigger is basically reprogramming ourselves. We have been doing things just out of habit. Granny did it, mama did it, auntie did it, and it's like everybody's done it, so why not me? And I think we're coming up to this generation who's saying, well, I'm tired of doing that. I want to do it differently. And I'm part of that generation that's saying, I'm ready to do something different. How do I take a stand? Where do I need to stand? And I feel like everybody thinks that you have to be in these big leadership positions to make the stand, and you don't. You could be a mom who shows up and just tell the kids positive affirmations while at the bus stop. You can be the dad that shows up at the school and participates on the dad stage and just encourage the young men to be strong, to focus, to do the things that they need to in order to be successful in this world. I think we are so busy telling people, well, you need to be a CEO or you need to be the pastor in order to say a couple of scriptures. You don't even have to do that. It's basically just showing up and being who you are and living the purpose that you are designed to do. And I think that is where we have to start teaching our kids. You just have to show up and be you. We've been so trained basically just to be somebody else. Look at how much TV, how much of media is telling us, well, you need to look this way. You have to dress this way. You have to eat this. You have to look this, fit this criteria in order to live this life. So I think it's going back to the reprogramming of our own mind and letting us changing our own mindset. And once we do make that mind shift, then we're able to do the things we need to do within our community. But it takes a mind shift in order to make those changes.
I agree. I wrote this statement earlier today. I said, there is tremendous momentum for the Black Lives Matter movement, but we have to be smart, we have to be consistent, and we have no choice but to remain focused on the bigger picture so that we do not get in our own way. Please know that they are well-funded, experienced, and well-positioned to fight to maintain their hold on our African-American heritage. This is one of the few times in our lifetime that global solidarity has fueled a quest to eliminate forever any legal recourse to oppress us as a people. The time is right now. Voting is the key. That's from you, Brittany, because I heard you today. Voting is the key. If we get out and vote, then everything after that will be easier, because then we who believe in equality and justice will then have the people in positions to finally remove racism from the fabric of this world's history. So I read that to see what you thought about this. I think they are well funded. I think they are well positioned. I think they are ready to fight to hold on to whatever it is, their statutes or their statues. You know what I'm saying? So the way I believe they're able to do that is because they've got great political, proximity, for lack of a better word. So voting is the key. You can't. It don't matter what we do. If we don't have the right people in the offices and positions and wherever they need to be, then whatever we do gets unraveled. We've got a president right now that has unraveled everything from 8 years of work. He's totally got it where it's just divided. And so I just want to ask you, do you think this protest is effective, or is it too early to tell? The way we feel right now.
I honestly feel like it has been very successful, giving us that have the platform to be able to protest peacefully in some areas, because you still see some areas around the world that the media is saying, is chaotic, because you still have these police officers that are shooting rubber bullets and shooting peaceful protesters with tear gas. But you, on the flip side, when you step into a city council meeting and you're sitting before your city mayor, and before you even have an opportunity to stand for why we should still have the right to exercise our First Amendment, and they tell you before you even get to give them your spiel, hey, we already lifted the ban. Why? Because they see protesters out there, and they know what the outcome is going to be based off of what's going on in other cities. You see statues coming down. You see so many more celebrities getting involved, and they're out here on the front lines at the protests. You see younger and older generations coming together and their wisdom being shared, and you see people who are out there and they giving care to people as caregivers, like people that's falling faint out there in the sun. You see so many different social classes coming together. You know a problem has to be bad if you get the wealthy to care about a poor people problem. Let's just be realistic about the situation. When you see that, then you know, and everybody is on one accord, that's a powerful thing. Because has that really happened in history? Because based off the history that was taught in my history books from school, I can never recall that. You have a few Caucasian people who helped slaves escape to the north because they had to hide them and shelter them and feed them or whatever. But have you seen that? I'm 29 years old and I've never seen that. So I think that what's going on with the protests is effective, but it is going to take voting and getting new people in office that you can hold accountable for when they get in there. This is what you're going to do, or we're going to move like this again as a people, and we're going to make sure that you get vetoed. Because based off of what Trump has done in office, he should have been gone a long time ago. And I have trouble understanding why we as a people have not united like this before George Floyd to get him out of office and take Michael Pence with him.
Right. That's that complacency. Go ahead, Denise.
Yeah. And I do agree with what Brittany is saying, is that yes, this protest has caused the movement, has caused attention, but honestly, we speak even louder when it comes to voting. Just going back to look at votes back in 2016 or 2017 with like Atlanta and Alabama, who showed up at the polls and they voted, and it was mainly Black women, but they came to the polls and they voted and they made their voices heard. And the same as when we voted for President Obama, we came out in droves. But because we have this thing of, I don't like this person, right, so I'm not going to vote. We have to get out of that. And if you don't like this person, get up there and do what you have to do to make the changes that you want to see, even if you have to get on the ballot. And I think that's the thing, is that we don't even trust ourselves and believe in our own selves to even get on the ballot. We think, oh, well, I got to do this, or I got to be a part of this organization. You can just get on the ballot.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I respectfully disagree with you on that. I think that it's based off of what's been told to us of what we're able to do. When opportunities come up for us, sometimes they make it seem far-fetched so we could get the idea out of our heads. And so when we see people that don't look like us, that don't talk to us, that can't relate to us, then we stuck with another guy that looked like he come off the oatmeal box, and that's why people become unmotivated to go out there and vote. Just like the city of Dallas did against the protesters when they used the people tax dollars to get these, call in these charter buses to take these people off with zip ties to take them to jail. They could come with that same energy when it come down to getting people to these polls so that they can vote, but they choose not to because they understand the power of numbers. And this is why we as community leaders have to hold them accountable for that same action. Hey, okay, you did this before, that means you could do it again.
But it's also, but it also comes down to us educating ourselves. Most of us are college educated. And I think we are using excuses of what the other person has done in the past, instead of using that, okay, well, we have Google. Let me Google and see what I need to do to be on my city council. What qualifications do I need? And if I need to do a GoFundMe to campaign, let me do a GoFundMe to campaign. I'm pretty sure a lot of my church members will support me, or a lot of my classmates will support me. I think we use that, well, because of XYZ, we can't do LMNOP. We have to stop shortchanging ourselves. And I think that's what we do. We shortchange ourselves because of what somebody else has already said and put forward. We are powerful. If we can do this as a protest, I'm pretty sure we can do a lot more in our system and change a lot more, because we do have the numbers. We do have support. We do have allies out there. We just have to know how to use them and stop using the excuse that we can't. And then we can show how powerful we really are.
I agree. Both of you ladies make valid points. I mean, this thing's still recording. This might win some awards. This might win some awards. This might be the best Zoom ever in the history of Zoom. I was taking notes. When I do this, I'm taking notes. I know we're recording, but it's like, oh my God, that's where, what'd you say? What? I wish I could rewind, but I can't. I can't type fast enough. But anyway, okay, so this is excellent. This is what, so to be honest, when you talk about mental health, these types of conversations help us come up with a plan, feel better about ourselves, recognize how knowledgeable and how resourceful we truly are. That uplifts us. And that's why I wanted to get more people on the show, on this Zoom, on the show, because hearing you two ladies, they would have been truly blessed, and no telling who else in that group might have been able to bless us with the same type of hope. Because that's what you're doing right now. You're giving hope. You're showing. I don't know what the conversation was before. I don't know how normal it was to have a conversation where you talked about voting and having a plan and being strategic and holding people accountable. I don't think that happens enough in circles. I host an open mic. I have one coming up this Thursday in Arlington at Favor's Restaurant. And what I always do with my open mics is I always have some type of social awareness component. And before we do any open mic, we have a discussion. The open mic gets people in. Discussion gives them what they need when they leave. So that's how I try to use it. So I only have 2 questions left, ladies, and I know some of y'all are hungry. I think you was eating earlier, when you Brittany, you were talking about some soul food in Grand Prairie. I heard you here. You thought you were muted, but I heard everything. Smacking everything.
Hey, go and support them. It's a Black-owned business in Grand Prairie.
What? Okay. I need to go there then.
It's vegan.
Go what now?
It's so vegan.
It's so vegan.
That's my place.
Okay. Oh, you already know about it?
Oh,
I'm the one that don't know, but I know now. Okay.
They got a plug today.
They sure did. We'll pay it back. All right. I think did you get food today from over there, Brittany?
I did.
Oh, there you go.
Salisbury steak, greens, macaroni, sweet potato. So it definitely hit the spot. And while we on this, since this is probably going to be posted in the public, I would like to take this opportunity to tell everyone them know and to support their business. I just found out about it from one of the Black-owned business groups that have the restaurants in the DFW area. So you guys go support them.
Okay. All right. It's so vegan. We definitely will. All right. And I will be going by there. Payday though, that next Monday. I'm gonna let you know. I'm a social worker. Do the math. Okay?
Hey, it's okay.
I'm just letting you know. All right. So how important is the role of the church in this new movement? How important? I mean, they had I know way back in the day we talked about, doing things like we used to do, and the church used to be heavily involved with MLK and all that stuff. But now, how important, other than funerals and memorials, how important is the church today in this new movement? Anybody?
I will say the church involvement today is highly important. I'm now seeing pastors have conversations with white pastors about social economics, racism, especially in between the churches. I mean, think about it. You go to a predominantly white church, you're not having this conversation. You're not even mentioning race. You're going to church, you're doing what you do, and you come back home and you enjoy your family. But in Black churches, we are having that conversation. We're constantly having that conversation. And it's time to spill that conversation over into the community, opening up the doors and hosting. Like you said, you have an open mic night. Maybe they need that. Having conversations about mental health and not just saying we're just going to pray about it. No, we got to be about it. We got to start acting, especially if you're in a predominantly Black community. You definitely need your doors open and hosting whatever needs to be hosted. Not just hosting a politician that comes through every now and then to get a vote, but you need to be having those political conversations. Why are you here at our church? Why do you choose this church on this particular day? Why are you not here every 365? We need you here every day, not just to get your vote. Just having those conversations, and we're afraid to have those conversations because there's that nonprofit money that's on the side. We got to get out of that. If we're up here trying to support our communities and be about our communities and make sure that they're at their best, we got to, as the church, got to take a stand and be like, look, this is our community, and we're not going to take that. Especially for our schools, especially for our people, we got to take a stand. And it's up for the church to do that.
Yes, ma'am. Brittany, what do you think?
I think that we need to hold our church leaders accountable, especially call them out on the things like meeting with Betsy Price in private office, gaining money off the people paying. That type of stuff we need to call out. We need to call out waiting on the community to come into church while your church is in their community. Get outside of the four walls of the church. It's too many members that come in and have been in the church for 20 years who could really go out into the community to do some more hands-on work and to show up at these community centers, to show up at some of these protests, to show up with some donations, because people donate your funds all the time. And these are the things that y'all need to be called out on. If you're going to have this platform, either you're going to be responsible with it or we're going to ask you to come down. And I think that's what it's going to take the people to do, to let people know we're holding our leaders fully accountable. And if you can't do the job, we need you to step down because you're more hurt than harm at this point. You understand, as a people now, you can't just pray stuff away. You need to apply the word. And faith without works is dead. And we say that scripture all the time, saying it all our lives. But really, step into that thing and understand that it's going to require more than prayer to fix a problem. Because when you open up the Bible, whenever you're talking about it, before you even mention the name of Jesus, you see that he had people that was out going on crusades and things like that to be able to reach, touch and agree with people on a whole different other level. But you can't be, as a church, selective on who you don't choose to deal with, because you're missing out on so many hidden gems because people don't look like you and people don't worship the same deity that you serve. It's bigger than that, and you have to understand that the mission is always bigger than that, and stop limiting yourselves to, okay, well, I just got to go to the holy and sanctified places. Because if you're going to read your word, you have to apply it and know that Jesus said amongst the tax collectors and the prostitutes.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the we put on our leaders. If you're going to be walking on purpose, know that Jesus didn't come for the saved, he came for the sinners. So if the people that's sitting in your congregation are already saved, you need to get out there to them sinners and get them some help and resources to let them know, hey, this is where you go vote. This is where you can go for health evaluation. This is what you do, go on prescriptions. These are the same reasons why people turn away from the church now. And you got church congregations, you got a church on every corner, but you got 7 members in the churge. You know what I mean?
And nobody coming together.
And nobody
coming together. You know what? But that could be the only way that could be an advantage is if every church even with the ones with only 7 members, get out to vote. You know, maybe perhaps some of those smaller churches, it'll be easy to organize. All right, you ain't Sue, cousin Joe, Pookie. Here are these flyers. Go out to over here, go to Como, go to Pate, go to, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, at Stop 6. So it could be easier sometimes in these smaller churches, but you know, you're right.
They gotta learn to drop the name. You gotta drop your individual name to be about one name, because it's about, if I'll be lifted up, then I'll draw all men to me. If I'll be lifted up, I'll draw all men to me. So all you gotta do is exalt one name.
One name.
Many people are gonna come.
Right.
And we're out there at the protest. I don't know how many times they are dropping scriptures and nobody is offended. I'm just saying, I'm out there and I'm seeing it.
I hear you, and very well stated, man. I'm just saying, this is awesome. One last question. This is it, y'all. And this is it. What does all this mean for future generations? Take your time.
For me,
if this is done right, Denisha, if this movement moves forward like it's supposed to, and we get people in the offices and get positioned like we're supposed to, what does this mean? All that work mean for future generations if we're successful?
If we're successful as like the civil rights movement, I'll say that. If we're successful like that in making changes in that regard, then it means that we have to take bigger steps ourselves. We're going to have to, again, it goes with that mental shift. We're going to have to continue the work. It just does not stop with putting the people in office. Like Brittany said, it's about accountability. We're going to also have to keep ourselves accountable. It's going to get harder because there's always going to be a pushback. Just because we get an olive branch doesn't mean we're going to get the olive tree. And we're going for the whole vineyard, okay? We just don't want the leaf. We want the whole garden, okay? And so if we're going to go for the garden, we also got to have gardeners out there. We got to have people that's willing to do the harvest. And not everybody's going to be willing. And in that regards, it's going to be hard. But if we are willing to hold everybody accountable, and we're willing to keep up the momentum that is already being pushed forward, and if we're willing to go to those town meetings and show up at our city council and do whatever we need to, then yes, everything that we do in 2020 was worth it. But it's not going to be worth it if we're just like, oh, well, we did it, and then 2021 comes around and we back to normal. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I agree. Brittany, thank you, Denisha.
I'm going to ask you to repeat the question. I heard that, you to repeat it.
What does all this mean to the future generations if we're successful in this movement where we get out to vote, where the protests are not meaningless protests, and we go back, they throw us they trip us up by giving everybody a $4,000 stimulus check. You know what I'm saying? If we can sift through all the distractions and smoke screens and all the attempts to appeal to our economic base, so to speak, what does it all mean if we stay the course? For what does it mean for future generations if we stay the course, if we keep this up?
We have no choice but to stay the course at this point because we too far to turn back now. So I'm going to speak life into this situation, and we will move in a positive direction. Effective changes will be made. We will have our minds renewed. We will be motivating the next generation that is to come. They will have something to believe in because they're seeing it, they're experiencing it, and they will have mentors to take them by the hand. Hey, we're going to instruct you guys on how to pick a good leader. We're going to hold you accountable for the decisions that you made. Even when it comes down to making a mistake, we're still going to hold you accountable. I think that this change is showing and will leave an imprint on the generation that are to come, to let them know how powerful they really are, because they've seen people who are out here. Hey, we make a difference. We care about you. We see you. We hear you. And I think that letting the youth know that, especially when they're stuck in homes, and especially during the pandemic, you have a upspring of abuse going on. So when they see people out here actively advocating for them, when you're a victim, either you're gonna become the person who hurt you, or you're gonna become better. And I speak life into these youth that are out here around the whole world. You do matter. You are valued. You are loved. You are joy. You are happy. You are mentally stable. You have what it takes to be the next world changer. You don't have to look a certain way. You got it. Start from where you are. And every tool, you are the tool. And that's where we at. That's where we going.
Well, that was, again, ladies, well stated, both of you. I couldn't have said it better. Matter of fact, I couldn't have said it better. And we still gonna get that stimulus check. How about that? Well, before we chime out, I just want each of you to tell us where people can perhaps find you, if you have a website, or you have a business, or or mentoring group. Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me. I have the Facebook page. Is Denisha Williams. Soon, and give it about a month, yay. You will start seeing Sister Support Circle. We'll start advertising for that soon, where you'll be able to have a space where we can continue this conversation about mental health, mental wellness, and whatever else they might need to talk about.
Awesome. I'll be there. I'll be supporting you.
Thank you.
And tag me, Brittany.
My name is Brittany Washington. You can find me on Facebook, Brittany Washington, BRITTINEE. It's not many of us out there that their names spelled like that. Yeah. I thought I would go ahead and help the people, because I know that that was a price Betsy Price had, and get my name correct. But Instagram is bowtie_slayer. You may reach me at my Gmail account, BrittanyWashington@gmail.com. And also, I have to take a break from the podcast, but I have a podcast called Bridging the Gap. Bridging the Gap. And you can find that on Spotify or any other local platform. So, and I just want to take this time to tell you, thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity to share our inner thoughts and have and although we didn't agree on everything, we still taught people how to respect the difference in people and their thoughts and their ideas. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
And that is a great point. But ladies, again, this is Michael Gwynn. This has been Tell Me How You Feel. And I hope that this thing recorded and I can share it. I'm not going to share it. I'm going to send it to you. So I'll send you your inbox, or, I'll find you and I won't put it out there. I want you to look at it first. You'll be like, I don't like that. It was, I didn't like the way my shirt was, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? The dog jumped on me in the back. I don't want that. But whatever it is, you have the right of first refusal. But I think just the audio of this is going to be incredible. It was an incredible think tank, and I really appreciate y'all.
Thank you. This was amazing. This was an amazing opportunity. So thank you for sharing and allowing us this opportunity.
You're welcome. And I wish we had more, because it was riveting. And I guarantee you, if there were more people on here, they would have been fed. They would have just been sitting back and just taking it in and be like, wow, there are very, very intelligent people who look like me out there. And these people are in the background, they're in the foreground, they're on the front lines, they're getting more education, and they're getting other things ready, the other platforms ready to further the conversation. So I really appreciate y'all, okay?
Absolutely. And also, I want to say one more thing before we get out. If you guys are experiencing any type of mental crisis, you can always visit the National Suicide Prevention Society website, and we have advocates all over the world, and they're willing and they're there 24 hours a day, 365 days out of the year. So you guys reach out to them if you feel like you're not okay, and it's okay to not be okay.
Yes. And just to tag on to Brittany, just to let you know that there's other support groups out there, like NAM, a National Mental Alliance. They are out there for you. You can definitely give them a call. They have also support groups for families. They do have trainings to help families with people who are experiencing any mental illness. So
awesome.
Definitely check them out.
All right, and you can also, if you need to, there's a text number 741-741. Text that number. It's a crisis intervention hotline. It tackles all issues. So you text that number, and someone will call you immediately. And that's what we use at my job. By the way, I do work for City Square, which is the organization that addresses homelessness with youth and adults. I am a permanent supportive housing coach with them, and I work with the youth. I work with youth who have aged out of foster care who suffer from a mental illness, and that's what I do there. And before that, it was 6 years as a CPS investigator. So you can see the writing and the advocacy is in us here. We have a great group, and I would love to work with y'all. So if you're doing something, you need someone to come and speak, or either hand out paper towels, I don't care. Y'all let me know, okay?
Well,
all right, ladies. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
All right, good night.
Nice to meet y'all.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.